What's up, Online Empire Academy? I'm Joshua Woodward, and I am so excited to be here. As you know, we've been going through the private label. I don't know what to call it. It's like a series. We're going through a series right now about private labeling, and I wanted to bring on a really fun company. This is We Rascals, and I have Kylie Claiborne. I wanted to make sure to get that right. But they have an amazing. They took an idea and they expanded on it. I mean, that's so much of everybody we've interviewed so far has this one idea, and then they actually ran for it and went for it. And as entrepreneurs, so many of us are doing the same thing, and kind of just like we're searching for that niche, searching for that idea, searching for that next thing that we can end up private labeling. And We Rascals is exactly that. And so I wanted Kylie to come on today just to kind of share about their journey and how they got started. So how are you?
Thank you for having me, Joshua. I'm great. Thank you again.
Yes. Yeah. We actually had a complete crash. My computer shut down. So this is the second time that we're doing this, but we're going to have fun with it and it's going to be good.
Yeah. It's perfect. I got my jitters out, like I told you. So I'm ready and focused.
Perfect. All right. So I want to hear your story. Tell us how this got started and where you guys got this amazing idea.
Well, it really started with me having the desire to tell my then 4-year-old, he's 6 now, but he was 4 at the time, tales of true heroism. So We Rascals is a company that's centered around a children's t-shirt company, centered around historical heroes like Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and Amelia Earhart. And it was started out of my desire to really want to tell him stories of people tales of true heroism, people that had done really amazing things for our world and really made this world a better place. Instead of mass marketed cartoon characters and imaginary things, I really wanted him to have his eyes on real faces and real people. So that's really where my inspiration came from. I mean, it came from wanting that for my son, and then just wanting it for all kids and wanting them to make that connection between all of the amazing characters that Abraham Lincoln, has, and making that connection with themselves. Because they have those characteristics. They have bravery and grit and determination, all those things. So really, I mean, we want them to make that connection as well. So inspire and connect those things.
Huh. I love it. It's so interesting. You use the word grit. That's something for me that I've always pressed into. For some reason, it was a conversation with my dad when I was younger, and he talked about having grit. And it's so interesting because it really is instilled. It's a concept that's instilled at a really young age of hard workers have grit. And being a hard worker looks like this, or making a change. If you want to make a change in the world, you've got to have grit. And so I love the concept. And this is why I wanted to have you guys on, is because there's a concept here that you guys took, again, an idea and actually did something with it. So kind of explain your journey. So you have all these ideas. How did you start a clothing business? That's a huge step.
It is a huge step. I think if someone would have, told me all of the hurdles in the beginning, I would have said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm good. I'm good. Which is right. That's how we all kind of start. You start out blindly and you don't know really what you're getting into. And that's probably a good thing in the beginning. But totally. I started out just, really wanting to see these real faces, and hopped online like we all do. And I thought for sure somebody was doing it. And I just really couldn't find anyone that was doing it in a really cool way. And I thought, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to just kind of start digging a little bit here. And so I did, and I ended up kind of finding someone very close to me in Austin, Texas, that does the type of printing that we need. We do some screen printing, but we do mostly a process called DTG, which is a direct to garment printing. And it just allows for different things without too much detail there. But so I found someone fairly close, and it just kind of started. It started with Johnny Appleseed, who was, the one hero from my elementary school days that really stuck out. I was like, yeah, I'll tell him that story. I was thinking the pan on the hat, and, Johnny Appleseed was amazing. He was the original conservationist. He was a vegetarian. He was just he was a friend to all the indie. I mean, just on and on. He was just an amazing person. And so many of these stories of these people's lives are amazing, and they are full of grit and courage, and they're just really inspiring. I mean, if you read Joan of Arc's story about her life, wow. I mean, Martin Luther King, of course, obviously incredible, but you can't help but be moved when you go back and kind of read over their stories. So that's kind of another part of the equation. I just kind of was inspired by them. I'm not a maker, I don't screen print. I'm not a screen printer. I'm not I don't sew any of our t-shirts. So my inspiration for my business really came from this desire to want to bring this for our kids, just bring this forward for them. So yeah.
This is so cool. Again, I just even talking to you is reminding me of all these different principles that I've been taught. And again, at a really young age, I remember having a conversation with a friend of the family, and they were talking about how the difference between a millionaire and everybody else is their decision to actually take action on something, and accept failure and look it in the eyes. And I think what's so cool is that you had an idea, and so many of us every day have an idea. There's so many people listening right now who have an idea. The difference between you and Kylie is that she actually did it. She went forward and took this idea and made something from it. Yeah. So you guys get done with screen printing, you get connected with that. How was that process? Because a lot of times that's where people just stop. They're like, oh man, I have to have like a limited quantity, or, I have to purchase a bunch. I have to have capital. I have to do all this. How was that process for you?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. And we definitely, actually just not too terribly long ago, we had to make a really big shift from our current printer into, somebody else, where I was having to drive a little bit further. So, I mean, there's definitely roadblocks. I think for me, I just really love the process of creating things and being inspired in that creation process. And so that's kind of just pushed me on. And I don't know. Yeah, I've just kind of picked up and kept on going, as they say. But yeah, definitely we've had roadblocks. And like I said in the beginning, I think, it's kind of good as an entrepreneur that when you start a small business, you don't know everything that kind of that you don't know the scope of what you're getting into, because if you did, you probably wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? And I mean that with so much like love and reverence for what I'm doing. I absolutely get up every morning and I'm so excited to like dive into my work. And that is a real truth. But I think if someone would have said, I would have been like, oh, I'm okay. But now that I'm in it, I'm in there. I'm not going to give up, I'm going to keep going. And I just have a real desire for this to come forward. So yeah,
I love it.
I really need it for kids. I really do. And I think we really have discovered a whole tribe of parents that also there is a longing for something outside of, everything that's mass marketed and some truths. People, I think that's there for a lot of people. So.
Well, I think it's so cool. I mean, it's the difference between Thor, who's a mythological character, and then Johnny Appleseed, who was a real man.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of these stories get blown out of proportion, and you got to find what's truth. But in the end, I think that's so cool. And what I'm so captivated with this idea, and I don't know, that it's just so fun. One of the questions I had, and I had started a clothing company when I was younger in high school, and one of our biggest problems was marketing. Were we going to be online? Were we going to be, in retail stores? How are we going to handle it? Or were we going to do both? How did you handle that process? Because I know building a following isn't easy.
No, it isn't. And we started out on Etsy, and actually Etsy kicked us off. Which
Really?
is really funny. Yes. I love to tell people that story because they said we weren't handmade enough. So it was fine. It was actually, I say that only to your listeners so they can like take that and like, so we just started, we ended up, our site is powered through Shopify and we love it. So, we just had to move on. We had to find another avenue of sales. And I think for us, being online is definitely huge. And then, of course, social media is huge. I think one tip I have there would be in terms of just growth, make sure you're on 2 different platforms. You don't want to be like putting all of your energy into, only Facebook or only Instagram, because as we all know, like that stuff changes. I mean, everybody, was once on MySpace. Well, you don't hear much about MySpace anymore, and I think social media is so fluid these days that you really have to try, to kind of have 2 that you're really kind of working. So yeah, I mean, we've done that, and just, we've collabed with a lot of brands, a lot of local brands, and then a lot of, we reach out to people all the time. I love to collaborate with other makers and other companies. It's actually one of my most favorite things to do. And it surprised me the most about starting my own small business, how much I love connecting with other people. And I think if I were on a road trip and I got stranded somewhere, I could call up anyone. I mean, it's so crazy, all the people that you get to know just by having a small business. Like I would, if I was in Montana, I'd have like 5 customers I could call and be like, hey, can I come stay at your house? So it's really fun. But I would say, make sure you're on 2. Sorry, I'm totally.
No, I love it. No, it's really good.
I start like going off in left field. But I mean, definitely make sure, our social media is huge, as you know, and that's been probably the fuel for most of our growth. But being on 2 platforms is definitely, I highly recommend that.
That's good. Where have you seen the most conversions? Now, for the audience that doesn't understand that, is when you either have an email list or you have a social media following. The goal is to have both. Yeah. And the goal is to transfer your social media audience onto your email list. Why that is because that is the greatest rate of conversion that I've seen, is people who are getting your email, because there's a personal touch with your audience on Instagram or Facebook, but there isn't always that click buy, the click in rate that email produces. But what I'm finding is that's changing now. So I wanted to hear from you is, have you seen more conversions from a place like Facebook than your email list?
Yes, Instagram is our big converter for us personally, because we're a visual, we have a visual product, and we've got all kinds of cute kiddos on our Instagram page, and people who doesn't love to see a cute kid? I mean, everybody. So Instagram is huge for us, and that's where that's definitely where we have the largest presence, and it's definitely our biggest converter. So
okay. No, that's good. And I think just for the audience, it's really important to listen to, especially if you have a private label product and you're trying to build a brand.
Yeah.
Please don't forget that, and take the lessons that Kylie's teaching us, because there is a huge step in building a brand, and you can't just put it on Amazon and expect it to sell. You've got to build a following and a group of people who are excited about your product and excited about what you're putting forward. What are some ways? I mean, you just talked about having kids and that, it's a cute picture and stuff. What are some lessons that you've learned with building a following?
Well, that's a great question. Let me think. Probably, I think the one great, I'll just speak in regards to Instagram, since that's like is that okay? Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
The biggest audience, so I feel pretty well versed in that. So there's definitely a certain aesthetic that you want to kind of stick to when you are building your Instagram feed, and you really want to make sure that you are speaking your intended customer's language. So that's a big thing. Like, I know who my customers are. And I try to get into their head as much as I can and think about what do they, not do I, Kylie, what do I personally want to see this morning? What would my customer want to hear, or what would they want to see this morning, or this afternoon or this evening in my post? So I really try to kind of hone that in, and I'm still honing that skill, to be honest. Like, okay, what do they want to see today? What do I, all of those things are so important, because it's not about me. So I think also like learning to separate yourself from that part. I mean, to me, We Rascals is definitely a reflection of an inspiration I have, and it also just like really exists on its own, and it's it's its own thing. So I know who my customer is, and I try to kind of speak their language. That's the best. And then, again, just having a certain aesthetic that you kind of commit to because people, it's you want to have a feeling. People want to get a feeling when they look at your brand. For us, it's like, what is a We Rascals kid? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And really trying to speak that in pictures and in 60-word captions.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. And actually, I want to learn more about your process. How did you figure out who your customer was? What did that process look like?
Well, it looked like, it feels really weird, but like if I sat down and thought of someone, like, who are we trying to target? What does that person look like? What are they, male? Are they female? How old are they? Are they parents? Are they grandparents? Are they, who is that person? So literally writing down, I even got specific and made like a Pinterest board a hidden Pinterest board dedicated to my intended customer. So I would pin things that I would think that mother would like, and just to kind of get myself in that space of who this person is and how I can market the best to speak their language. So
wow.
Is that weird? That's what I do.
No, it's awesome. I love that so much. And in the podcasting world, we call that building your avatar, and finding out who your customer is and actually building an avatar based on that. And I'll have to share with the Empire my avatar at some point, but I love exactly what you just said is boiling it down to, are they grandparents? Are they, do they have kids? Or are they buying for their next door neighbor? Like, what is that exact person, and how am I going to market to? Now, you figured out who your avatar is. We'll just call it that for the ease of the scenario. You figured out who that is. Now, how did you build the following? Did you have an email list before? How did you grow that?
Probably a pop-up. We have a pop-up on our website, and so we have that offers free shipping. So as soon as people, I think that's probably the quickest way that we built our email list, because you're right. Again, with the fluidity of social media forums, if one of those goes out, at least you have your email list of customers, and it's super, super important. I think that's probably been the best thing for us, is just having a pop-up and some sort of fun thing like free shipping, or something like that kind of entices people to leave me their email. And we send out newsletters probably every other week, or sometimes weekly, but typically every other week. So I think that's the best way, is just a pop-up.
That's genius. And I love it, because they've got to go to your site to buy.
Yes.
So it's you're already getting them to your site, which is, we've tested with Triple Threat, our clothing company. We've tested a couple different ideas and a couple different ways of doing things. And I've always loved the idea of, and it is one extra step, so it's hard to get the conversion sometimes of people going in and buying it. But I love the idea of somebody actually coming in, becoming a part of the brand. Because really, you're trying to get people a part of the brand. You're trying to get them to understand your ideas and what you're about. You guys got to go check out their website. I'll make sure to link that in. But it really is. I love that there's an about me section and how you guys got started. And it actually tells your story, which I love. I so appreciate that, because I actually go read what the company I'm about to buy something about. And I may be weird like that, but I know there's other people out there like me.
No, definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of people like that.
Totally. Now, the other question I had was, when you were developing your avatar, when you were finding out, and building your customer base, how did you develop your pricing?
Oh my gosh, this is such a great question. This is actually one of my top tips was going to be, but I'll go ahead and I'll roll it in right here.
I like it.
One big mistake that I made that I really wish someone would have told me this starting is that I make sure that you are rolling every single cost of your raw material. That's obviously, I'm speaking to a product-based business, right?
Totally.
Every single cost of your raw materials into your bottom price. So if you're planning on moving into wholesale, like normally what people do, they say, okay, I want to sell something for $10. And they never, okay, let me backtrack here, Joshua. I'm not explaining it clearly. So I think, yeah, make sure that you're rolling every single cost.
Yeah.
Also shipping, like that was one thing I didn't roll into the cost. Like when we would ship, I would have t-shirts shipped to me. I wasn't rolling in those costs. I wasn't rolling in the cost. I wasn't thinking ahead in terms of like, okay, yeah, I'm in my house now and I work out of my home now, but eventually I want to outgrow that. So
Totally.
maybe I need to, in the present day, roll in 15% of my mortgage into the raw cost of my materials now. Does that make sense? I think that makes
Absolutely
sense. Okay. So that was definitely something that I didn't do, and I just didn't know to do it because I've never had a small business. So we kind of had to backtrack a little bit and adjust our prices, and prices had to raise. And it just is what it is. It's a USA made product. It's printed by local people, and we're not shipping things made from China because that's just not what we are about. So that warrants a higher price tag. And I think people that get that, they don't mind. I mean, they don't mind. We have customers, so they don't mind. They get that whole thing. But that's the biggest thing is like, there were so many small costs that I just didn't think about in the beginning. Like, roll that shipping in. Gosh, okay, eventually I might want someone to fulfill orders for me. So maybe I need to start thinking about what I would pay someone to do that for me. And breaking all those costs down. And that can get really, to be honest, that can get really, that gets really complicated really quickly. But I highly recommend like breaking all those costs down and making sure that those are rolled into that bottom price. Because then if you decide you want to go into wholesale, you're trying to squeak a wholesale margin into a retail price, and it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. So, and use economies of scale. You want to, of course, like buy as much as you can, buy bulk to help with all that stuff. But that's my tip.
Wow. That's fantastic. I think it's a huge learning curve. I think you hit it again on the nail of a lot of times we'll start with a product, start with a price in mind, the $10 price, and just factor a few things in. And then you don't factor in your time.
No.
And that is a huge, huge process because your time is worth money. Yeah. And by the end of the day, you've fulfilled 80 t-shirts and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to bring them, I've got to drive. I got the gas that it takes to get to the post office every day on top of getting more product and all of that. There's little things that you have to factor in. And then the fear is that if I raise my price, I will lose customers. Yeah. You may lose one or two. There may be just a slight downslope, but ultimately, exactly what you said. It's like we still have customers. Like they're gonna buy it. I love that you guys are standing for what you believe in the sense that I'm not going to sell out and get t-shirts from, across the pond. I'm not, I'm not going to try to get something that I don't believe in. And I so appreciate that.
Well, I mean, to be frank, yeah, I mean, I don't want to buy t-shirts made in China from child labor, kids that are sewing t-shirts. I don't want a t-shirt made by an 8-year-old in Bangladesh. Like, to be really honest with you, that is a huge issue for me, and we would never do that. So that, but we pay a higher price for that, and of course that has to get rolled on to the consumer. But I think, again, like, there's so many people out there that just get that, and they get the big picture, and they're down with it. They like that. So yeah, I mean, that was a big learning curve for me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not taking in my time. I'm not considering my time. I'm not considering all these little costs, seemingly small things like 4 cents for a mailer, or, but, and it doesn't seem like a lot in the beginning when you're having just very few orders, but trust me, I mean, if plan for it, if nothing else, then in my opinion, to send that out to the universe, that's what your intention is, right? Yeah. That, okay, I'm here now and I'm cool, I'm going to work it. But my intention is that I'm growing, that I'm going to move on from where I am now. And I've got my eye on the ball. Yeah. So, for me, it's always like about having gratitude in one hand and the goals in another,
That's really good.
Looking on. And, but yeah, just make sure you're accounting for all those things. And I know it seems like it's no big deal in the beginning when you're really starting small, but it will get big, bigger. And then you'll be having to backtrack, and then possibly, reorganizing yourself in the market, which is a lot of marketing expense, because then you have to recategorize yourself in a market, because maybe you were selling things for one price at one point, and now you're in a completely different price category. Well, you're going to have to kind of not start all over, but you've got to reposition yourself. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Goodness, I'm loving this. I'm gonna have to listen back to this and take more notes, because it really has got me thinking about just different systems and things that I can improve on.
Oh gosh, good. Well, thanks.
Absolutely. Now, my final question to you, before I want to get into top tips, just if you have any more, but my final question to you is content. Now, you're talking about in a social media driven business, and you're seeing huge conversions. My biggest problem is getting content, purely taking the pictures or having the pictures done for me. How have you handled that? Because that seems like a big undertaking.
Well, it is a big undertaking. My role is, I have a business partner, which I should mention, and she is phenomenal. Liz, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned you in the very beginning. She's amazing. So, but I typically handle the social media part, and she definitely helps me with the content as well. But I think, so, I mean, obviously I have two brains, both of us kind of working, which definitely helps. I think for me, 80% of our content is driven towards selling, and then probably 20% is either, giving back in some way, either like a shout out to someone else, or like, hey, have you guys checked out this, really cool whatever, be it, for us, it's probably like some sort of kid toy or something that makes your life easier, or, something that gets generates a lot of love typically, or just really inspiring quotes, or like funny things, like we'll post funny things about being a parent, or, whatever. And it just cultivates the conversation, and it stimulates the conversation, and people, it helps people trust you. I mean, they don't know you. They don't know, what kind of person you are, or, I mean, and so it helps people kind of it helps you build your trust with your customers and with your followers too. And maybe they don't purchase from you in the very beginning. Maybe they purchase from you a year into following you on social media, because they're slow to warm, and So I think definitely no one likes to be sold to all the time. I mean, I certainly don't like that. And as a matter of fact, in the beginning, I felt really, because I was so not used to, I wasn't a salesperson before I was a yoga teacher. So I felt really salesy. It felt really uncomfortable. And finally, one of my business coaches was like, listen, you sell t-shirts. It's okay to put your message out there and don't, so I've had to be like, kind of get in touch with my more direct voice and my more directness to kind of put that out. Because for me, it felt like I suddenly was like a car salesman, and it just felt really uncomfortable. Now it's much better, but I would say obviously a good rule of thumb was like 80% of your content should be geared towards like, selling what you're, selling your company or selling your product or your service. And then, another 20% or more sometimes, maybe more, to like shouting out to other people, quotes, or, just again with that intended avatar, as you say, or customer in mind, what would they want to see? Who would, what quote would they like to read today? But all with that kind of in mind. I don't know. That's a pretty good rule of thumb for us.
I really like that. Do you guys have any apps or posting systems that you guys use?
A lot of people have told, I have a few like friends who do like mass kind of posting, and I tried that. I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to that for 1 week. And for me, it didn't feel authentic. Like I couldn't sit down on a Monday and come up with our full week's post, because it just didn't feel authentic enough for me. And social media, to me, it's a conversation. It's about connecting with people and them also feeling like they can connect with you. And so for me, I want that authenticity to kind of be cultivated in a really authentic, real way. And so for me, I carve out the time in the morning, and then in the evening typically is when we post, and I'll do it that way. A couple apps that have been helpful for me are Iconosquare, because Iconosquare kind of tells you when your optimal posting times, for your audience will be. A whole slew of other amazing things on Iconosquare. So I highly recommend that one. And then for us, because we're always dealing with photos on IG, the Color Story is amazing. And then Pixtapto is another really good one for manipulating photographs, and that's another thing I had to learn very quickly. So anyway, so those are a few that help
Very
me.
cool, man. Well, I again, I'm going to have to go back and listen through this, because there's so many golden nuggets, guys. And I hope you've heard them. I hope that you've caught the passion in this, and you can tell that you're passionate about your business. And I so appreciate that. Before we end, I wanted to hear if you had any other top tips, just for people wanting to get into this business, or the entrepreneurs that are part of this area or this niche already.
Hang in there. I mean, I think when I first got in, I thought like, if it doesn't just blow up immediately, then maybe it's something I need to get out of. Like I just watched too many Shark Tank episodes or something. I don't know. But it really was like, those people are the unicorns. Like, I mean, truthfully, like it takes, again, grit. You have to stay in there. And, I just think, just hang in there. Like the people that you see that blow up overnight and they get like, I don't know, whatever, 50,000 followers or something, like that is so rare. It's so rare. I mean, the people that you see, little do you know, they've probably been in business for 5 years and you didn't know it. You know what I mean? So don't get in, and just don't get so wrapped up in everybody else's story. Like I had to, a few months back, unfollow a lot of my competition, because I just felt like I was getting way too like wrapped up in what they were doing. And it's totally okay to do that. I mean, if you're finding that it's consuming way more of your mental space than it needs to, unfollow them. Who cares? I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. And so I'm just being I'm I'm just letting it out, but that's
I appreciate it.
Like, hang in there and don't get too wrapped up in what everybody else is doing. I mean, that's just advice for life, really, but definitely in business too.
No, I so appreciate it, and that's a fantastic tip, and I feel like I just even I wanted to bring back to the point that you said there may be people who follow you that don't buy for a year.
Yeah.
And like I'm thinking about, as you said that, I was like, I'm totally following this company that does jeans. They make handmade jeans, and I have not bought from them yet, but I fully intend to. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And so don't be discouraged if you have 600, 700, 800, 1,000 followers and you're getting 40 conversions. It will happen, and it will happen in time. And I think that's one that's really sticking to me just in this process, especially for the Empire. I love you guys, and I want more people to understand, and see the value in the people that we bring in. And so, when I see only, 50 people watch the video, sometimes it's hard because it's like, oh, like this person's amazing, and I want them to I want everybody to see the content. And so I have to remember that a lot of times people are going to go back and listen to stuff, or people are going to go back and see the product or see the person, and they're going to enjoy it and enjoy the content that's out there. So I feel so encouraged by this podcast, and I so appreciate that just the passion that you brought to the table.
Thank you. That's so kind, Joshua. Thank you. Yeah, play the long game, right? I forgot where I heard that. I did not come up with that term. Someone else came up with that term, but I probably listened to the audiobook, and it was, it's playing the long game. That's really essentially what we're talking about here. But thank you for having me on. This was amazing, and you're inspiring. This is incredible what you guys are up to. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Empire, if you want to find out more about what they're doing, go to the onlineempireacademy.com/we rascals, and you can find out. It'll go to their website, and you can see everything that they're up to and everything that they're doing. And if you guys want to buy t-shirts, go buy t-shirts. And yeah, just thank you so much for everything that you guys are up to, and that you're actually, you're putting cool things and exciting things onto t-shirts. I really do appreciate that. And let me know when they make adult t-shirts.
We have one adult shirt right now, but I will let you know when we do more, for sure. We get requests all the time.
Well, again, thank you. And Empire, if you have not seen, we also have a YouTube page, and we're on Facebook. We're not on Instagram. Maybe we should start an Instagram account. But you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, most all podcast facilities. And everybody that's listening, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, Empire, have a fantastic day.